Chad Brendel joins us. Bearcat Journal covers them, and they're really good. They got more attention after hammering Iowa State. Chad joins us on the show, 365 Sports. Chad, we had Scott Satterfield on during Big 12 Media Days. We remember Neil Brown 2 or 3 years ago. He had kind of that chip on his shoulder. Scott, so much not that, but you could see a quiet confidence. Why is this team better than maybe those who thought they would just be okay?
Man, it's a pretty long list. I'll start in a couple places. One, they got offensive line right. They are playing really well up front offensively, and it's in both phases. They are run blocking at a high level. They are pass blocking at a high level. And when you have a good quarterback and good weapons around him, and you mix that with a really strong, multifaceted offensive line, all of a sudden your offense is a lot more reliable. It's a lot more likely to click than what we've had the past 2 years here. The other thing is they've got potential stars, right? Like that. You've got Brendan Sorsby, who, from some people I've talked to, is moving up as kind of a, first, second day grade guy in the NFL. You've got Jake Golday that I think is going to be a top 100 pick at linebacker. You've got Dante Corleone. You've got Joe Royer that's going to be probably a top 100 pick at tight end. And when you have that, and you've got some versatility in where those guys are spread out across your roster, you've got difference makers, and they just didn't have enough difference makers the past couple of years, and they've done a really good job. I think a shout out has to go out to Zach Grant and Jack Griffith and Cass Simmons, the guys that in the recruiting department have done the work putting this thing together, and then guys like Nick Cardwell on the offensive line coach, who's making a big name for himself here with a group that's been outstanding.
Chad, I wondered, because I was a really big fan of Corey Kiner last year, and thought like that guy's an NFL back, and he's going to go and make a team somewhere and probably help them. But I was curious to see where they went with that. And obviously, I wasn't worried that they were going to find somebody, but to get Tawee Walker was a boon, because he just seems like a perfect fit for exactly what they want to do, and he is hurting folks.
I think they're still scraping the remains off of the field at Nippert Stadium. Hopefully they can get things ready by Saturday. But Tywee's just a wild situation, right? Because he was supposed to be done with college. His eligibility had expired, and because of the Diego Pavia ruling, he had a year in junior college. He got a year back, and Wisconsin had already expected him to be gone, right? Like they had already moved on. They had their running back lined up for who was going to be next in line. And they kind of needed to go their separate ways. He ends up at Cincinnati. Thanks, Luke Fickell. We appreciate you, buddy. He ends up at Cincinnati, and he runs a little different than Kiner, but not a whole lot different. They're both physical guys at the point of attack that have great contact balance. Kiner was more, you hit him and he didn't lose balance. Walker is more, he's just going to run you over and then we'll figure out the rest later.
Chad, not to make too much of one win, because there is a long way to go, and they know, Cincinnati knows very well about a good first half and then a bad second half to last season and how that all ended up. So I think they're aware. But what did that win, you feel like, what did that kind of do maybe to just the outlook on this season and just the feeling around the fan base? How needed was a win like that?
It 1,000% energized the fan base. I can tell you that without question. Especially, things are not going great downtown for the other football team in Cincinnati right now.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And the Reds get eliminated from the playoffs, and this is kind of a Eeyore would love Cincinnati as a sports city because of the way things have gone here over the years. So they're looking for something to catch their attention, to hold their attention. And it's been 2-3 years since this football program has really been on solid ground, I guess is how you would put it. And they are responding in kind. I mean, Nippert was awesome on Saturday, and I think you felt that in the first half as they jumped out to that 31-7 lead.
The Reds thing didn't seem fair that, like, you finally make it to the playoffs. It's like, hey, would you like to see Shohei Ohtani?
Yeah.
That's just not fair.
Win more than 83 games.
Or no, don't win 83 games and you don't have to play them at all. Yeah. No, exactly. Just don't make it. Yeah.
Chad, the rest of the schedule now changes a little bit because Cincinnati's shown what they can do. How do you think they are built internally to take now not being able to sneak up on anyone?
Well, we're going to find out these next 2 weeks for sure, right? Because these are two teams they should beat. And then the back half of the schedule is pretty tough. You've got Baylor in there. You've got TCU in there. You've got BYU in there. You've got Utah in there over the last month. You're going to get challenged in the end of October and November. So you can't have a slip up. UCF at home, Oklahoma State on the road. You have got to get that job done and take care of business. Get yourself to 4-0 in conference play, and then stare down the barrel of the gun that finds out where you're going to end up at the end of the season. If you lose one of these two, there's a lot of momentum lost that you built up over the past 2 weeks.
Do you see them, and somebody asked us in the chat with our show on YouTube, as this year's Arizona State?
Maybe. I'm not quite ready to go there yet, just because I still have some concerns on the defense. They did a much better job against Iowa State than they did Kansas in the bend but don't break, philosophy of this 3-3-5 defense. Against Kansas, there was no bending. Kansas was hitting long 70, 80, 90-yard touchdowns, and that just can't happen for this defense to be successful. They answered the bell this week. Iowa State had 11 drives, and they only scored on 4 of them. And sure, some of that was related to Iowa State's kicker being hurt and Iowa State having to be more aggressive than they probably wanted to be. But the fact of the matter is, they held Iowa State out of the end zone on 7 drives. And with the level of this offense, if they can keep that up, then yeah, they do have a chance to be this year's Arizona State. If teams can march up and down the field, if they play BYU and Arizona and TCU, and those teams are just marching up and down the field, at some point the offense is going to have an off day and it's going to blow up in your face. So I need to see the defense continuing to improve for me to get there. But if it plays similar to what they did at against Iowa State, then I do think they're trending in that direction.
Is there somebody outside of a name player that is not yet on somebody's radar that you think will be, if in fact they continue to trend upwards?
Yeah, there's a couple. The one that really jumped, I'll go with the one that kind of finally did what the people around the program were hoping for against Iowa State, and that is safety Christian Harrison. I think that has been a position of kind of weakness over the first 4 weeks of the season. That Harrison played by far his best game against Iowa State. And if that's what he's going to look like the rest of the year, then I think this defense does really have a chance, because that's that type of guy on the back end of your defense that's going to help you get off the field on third down. And if the name sounds kind of familiar, his dad's Rodney Harrison.
Oh, yeah.
So the football pedigree is there with this young man. Hopefully it's just a matter of it took a couple weeks for him to really find his role in this system, find his place in this defense. Because if he's going to come on, and now you've got Corleone at the line of scrimmage, Golday behind him at linebacker, and Harrison making plays at safety, then you've got really something you can work with on the defensive end. So that's a name I'm going to be keeping an eye on for the rest of this season, because if he plays like he did Saturday, the math kind of changes a little bit.
Hey, buddy, great to hear from you. Thanks for being a part of our show, Chad. Enjoy the week.
Gentlemen, there's nothing I love more than when Cincinnati's good, because I know I'm going to get to be on this show.
Yeah, that or a coaching change, and it doesn't appear that's going to happen now because what Satterfield's got going. Thank you, Chad Brendel, Bearcat Journal, with us on 365 Sports.